Don't. Ours is over here. So
I'm saying hey to Scott's YouTubers.
all right.
Hey there, people from Scott's channel. And
hey, first of all, hi, this is Deb.
And this is Brian.
And welcome to
Life in Guatemala.
Today we have another expat chat, and I have Scott Moore and Betty Colson today just to have a general conversation about being expats here. But the fun thing for all of you is that, Betty, how long have you lived here?
It's been 27 years now.
27 years. Betty's a pro expat. Pro. And Scott, in this corner, is our rookie expat. And how long have you lived here now?
January 9th, it was a year. So
okay.
Just a tad over a year.
27 years, 1 year. Brian and I are at 6.5. So
right in the middle.
Right in the middle. And some of you may have seen, I had an expat chat with Eva from Panajachel, and it was just general conversation. And in the process of this conversation, we talked about our experiences as an expat. For us, it was the differences between the city here in Xela and her rural area of Pana, even though Pana can get pretty crazy on the main streets. But now all of us live here in Xela. Scott also lived a year in Nicaragua, correct?
Correct.
So he's not new to being an expat completely. He's not a total rookie.
And a long time ago in Costa Rica.
Okay.
Years and years and years
ago. For how long?
I was there for a little over a year also.
Okay.
Right outside of San Jose.
Well, let's do a quickie thing. Betty, I know the story, but everybody doesn't. What brought you here to Guatemala originally?
Okay, well, originally I came to be a part of Living Water Teaching Missions, and we started with a 4-year contract. Great place to be, but very sheltered.
Okay.
And then we just broke out on our own after that, independent. And
whole new world, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of changes.
How did you end up coming from Nicaragua to Guatemala?
Well, our original plan was we were going to retire, we were going to Mexico, and we were going to very slowly travel all the way to the bottom of Argentina. And then we were going to decide what's our favorite place. My wife changed everything like 2 months into it and said, because she's originally from Nicaragua, and she said, my mom's 90th birthday is coming, let's start in Nicaragua. So we went there. Climate is really, really important to us. We love cool weather.
Yeah. And
so we thought, okay, we're going to Nicaragua, we're going to the mountains. At least maybe it'll be a little bit cooler, because where she lives on the coast, it's sweltering hot.
Exactly.
So we went to Nicaragua, and we were in a city called Matagalpa. Very nice, but still just way too hot. And when we started looking at Guatemala, I kind of thought, well, it's going to be kind of like Costa Rica.
I remember seeing you on Facebook asking questions.
Yeah.
That's how we first hooked up, was on Facebook asking questions. I mean, we didn't hook up, but you know.
Well, the only place we could find information really was like, we found a lot of information on Antigua and Lake Atitlan. And then I stumbled on one video about Quetzaltenango. I was like, that sounds even better. And I kept like, there has to be something wrong with this place because there's not a lot of videos. And so finally we're like, okay, we're going to try it anyway because the temperatures are what we like. And we got here and we were like, this place is awesome. We love it. We don't want to be around a bunch of tourists. It was just perfect for us.
And for those of you who don't know, as an example, it's probably going to get into the mid-60s today out in the sun. That's a perfect day.
Yeah.
And it gets into the 40s at night for sleeping. That's a great night for sleeping. Now, we did have a frigid December and early January this year, meaning we actually had a frost 2 mornings if you got up early enough. But coming from Michigan, that was nothing. That's rookie weather.
That's shorts and t-shirt weather for us.
Spring is here.
Spring is here, yeah, exactly. So having lived here for 27 years, and you raised a family here now too.
Yep.
And so it's more than just I'm an expat. This is home. When's the last time you were back in the States?
Well, not counting airports, it's been more than 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I just don't go.
So yeah, and I guess there's really nothing wrong with that, but I would miss it if I didn't at least go back and visit. But I still have my parents there, so it makes a difference. I don't know once my parents pass on. I don't know if that how often I'll go back.
Yeah, you know, really for us, in my opinion, and for me personally, that's my main draw to go back there is to visit my mom.
Yeah.
She's the one remaining parent that I have, and then to visit Debbie's parents, which fortunately
They live in the same
they live right in
neighborhood.
the same condo complex, so you can just a 3-minute walk between the houses. So,
Exactly.
but once they're gone,
We don't know.
I don't really. I mean, there is a draw to go back there, and we've talked about this on other of our videos. And we lived there for 55 years, 56 years. You're accustomed to a lot of things that are completely different here. And sometimes it's like, man, I would really like to do this. In general, I make a list of the foods that I'm going to eat that you just can't hardly get down here. You know, there's
Yet.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Things
A
are
lot of
changing
things are
fast.
coming. A lot of things
yeah,
are coming.
there's
That's for
things stuff,
sure.
but still, I love a fish and chips dinner. You know, deep fried cod with some French fries and stuff. And I've seen cod here a couple of times at a couple of places, but it is not easy to get.
It's not the same thing, no.
It's not easy to get. And then to go to a restaurant and say, I want a fish and chip dinner. That ain't happening. I think I've heard of it, someplace in Antigua that there's a restaurant
That'd be
owned
the
by
place.
an expat, a foreigner, and they sometimes have fish and chips or whatever. But
So do you miss, not having been back for 10 years, but is there any one thing you can think of that you would kind of miss or that you would want to do different if you went to the States for even just a visit? Something that you can't do here or haven't thought about?
About the only thing really that attracts me in the States is my son. I've got a son. He's a big, lovable teddy bear of a guy. But we talk a lot on Messenger, and so we keep in touch. But
Sure.
really, that's my only. But I do have some old friends that I'd like to scoot around and contact. But as far as like activities or a lot of the things that people miss that are here are things that didn't exist when I was in the States anyway.
Okay.
Like I've never had Amazon delivered to my door ever in my life because it didn't. And
yeah,
internet kind of
years.
existed, but it wasn't a thing yet
Right.
back in the 90s. And so there's really, I mean, when I first moved here, we didn't have peanut butter, we didn't have chocolate chips, all these things we'd ask people to
And
bring.
now you have
And really, there's not. I would miss way more stuff here.
to go back there.
Yeah,
What about you, Scott? Do you have anything that you miss or something that you wish you could do or get here?
There's almost nothing, and it was way different in Nicaragua because there was no mall, there was no McDonald's, there was no
That's how it was for
Walmart.
San Marcos for us. Yeah.
So there I kind of missed a lot of stuff. Here it's like, almost everything you can get there. My mom is still in Florida, so missing my mom, but really everything else I can pretty much get here. I'm vegan, so it's a little bit, there's some products that I'm still kind of searching around
Like I
for.
said, I've got some information for you. I'm finding some of those things. Yes.
You know, there was a period of time where both of us, and me for maybe a longer period of time, where we were eating vegan in the United States. And it was super easy to eat that way because there was a lot of vegan restaurants there, and you could easily go to grocery stores and get,
Just
plenty
everything
of
that you want.
vegan
Yeah.
products. And here, besides buying fruit and vegetables, it's all these ingredients, because there's multitudes of recipes. And,
That was my
and to
big
find
thing.
the ingredients here, it's like, first of all, how do I translate this word? What was it you were looking for the one time? It was like sage or
Sage,
something.
and it's salvia.
And somebody said, well, that's called this, and you go and get it. It's like, ooh, this is not what I'm looking for,
What it's turned out to be is it was what I was looking for, but because it had not been ground and put in a little bottle and everything, the odor was overwhelming, and I wasn't aware sage was part of the mint family, and so it had this minty smell to it and it was overpowering when I opened it. So I ended up finding the sage that I couldn't find that I bought from the States, number one, and having 2 bags of sage, which, as I've learned since, it's also an anti-inflammatory. So now I've been putting it on all my chicken so it worked out. So now I have lots of sage, lots of turmeric, and I do, if I want to cook up some of my Indian chana masala, it's like I found garam masala finally, things like this. But I had to learn about the specialty stores, and it's not that things don't exist here. It's that, in the States, we're used to the convenience, one-stop shopping, basically. If I go in Michigan, as an example, Myers has everything. I can get something from my car, I can get something from my kitchen, I can get clothes, I can get all my groceries,
food.
all in this one big place. Here, if you want this kind of screw, you gotta go to this store. And if you want this kind of nail, you gotta go to that store.
Yeah, and the Walmart here is kind of like that, but they're just in the United States, they have more of basically everything,
Yeah,
so the
everything
Walmart in the United States has more variety of things in the store
Exactly.
than here. So it's a thing that, can be a difficulty at times,
But being retired, we're retired. I know you're retired, and Betty's not ever retired. She's always doing
overtime working.
Overtime working. But the
Retired.
biggest convenience for us really is the cost of living overall. And there's going to be some things, some of the foods, I can find the same price foods, depending on, like if I shop at an Aldi's near the house, I can keep my food budget pretty similar, but not if I chose to go to the market, I could save a lot, but I go to the supermarket because I'm an American and that's what I do. And, but the housing here, we live in this really nice house, this really nice condo. This same place would be 4 times the price in our neighborhoods at home, and maybe more in other places, in other states. And I'm in a very comfortable home. I'm in a very comfortable neighborhood. We have great neighbors. They're more than, some of them have turned into friends. They're not just neighbors anymore. And so I don't have I used to be homesick a lot more often. I'm a lot less of that anymore, especially when we lived in San Marcos. I felt very isolated. You can live really even cheaper than here. Xela is a pretty inexpensive place compared to like Antigua or the city or something. But, the availability of getting things done and doing things here, go ahead and don't let me do all the talking. That's why I have you guys here. Talk about your experiences maybe from early on to current day, and talk about what you're deciding and have a conversation amongst you. Let's see that versus. Come on.
Well, of course, one of the biggest challenges when you get here, if you're not super prepared, is the language.
Oh yeah.
And now that could be one big difference back then. We didn't have apps on our phones because our phones didn't have apps. I mean, I remember my first cell phone was way after we first got here, and it was one of those little flip things.
Yeah.
So I couldn't go to Google Translate and do all that stuff but I didn't really need to because I had enough Spanish to survive. High school Spanish.
More coffee?
Sure, that'd be great.
And so I got by, but still it was just challenging with specific things. I couldn't get my car fixed and understand the language for that, stuff like that. But so the language, a lot of good helps for that nowadays. But challenges raising teenagers, because my teens were 13, 15 when we got here. And all the drama that ensues after that when they grow up and things happen, but that's for another video. But yeah, the experience is definitely challenging, and in the situation we were at, I didn't have a lot of time or ability to enjoy all the fun stuff, the good stuff. We traveled all over the place, but we were always working. And so I've gone to every department of the country, but not as a tourist. I've done very little touristing here. In fact, Brian and Dad, you guys have done a lot more touristing than I have. And all the time
We came down here under different situations or whatever. We came down here to retire you came down here to
To
work,
work.
and you're still working to this day. Now you've
Ooh, they-
started off living on the campus, right?
Uh-huh.
Of Living Water Teaching, and then you
4
started.
years.
You were renting houses or apartments, and now you own your house. Really,
Yeah.
Betty is really one of our neighbors here. She lives just outside of the walls of our condo.
Stone's throw.
So very I can imagine in all that time you've seen, like tends to happen worldwide, is the prices go up from, you know, whatever an apartment cost way back when to what they're costing today. Still, of course, I do know you can rent pretty darn expensive places here.
Yeah.
People paying well over $1,000 a month rent
Even in
here in
Xela.
Xela,
Yeah.
let alone the city. I think there's places that I've seen advertised that are like close to $2,000 a month for rent for
I got your spoon, Linda.
pretty nice places. But you know, what's your take on the housing
The change in
housing costs here and stuff like that?
Housing costs have gone up, but I don't think that, I don't know, the percentage of costs in general, you know, like for a family or person, is as high a percentage as it would be like in the States. Because I know when I was growing up and coming of age, they said 25% of your, you know, monthly expense for your housing, and I think in the States it's gone way above that now.
Oh, yeah.
But here it pretty much still sticks with that, and it's gone up with the economy
Mm-hmm.
and everything else. So it's not exorbitant, and the fact that since they don't have like codes here, and you can pretty much go down as far as you want in quality, and nobody, you know, it's not challenged by the government, the quality of the housing and stuff. You can pretty much find anything you want at any price you want that you're willing to put up with.
That's the key right there. What are you willing? I mean, Scott told us kind of a horror story about his first rental, your landlord and near the park.
No, you're still renting here, right? Or did you
We're
buy
renting.
in Shayla Garden?
No, we're
Okay.
Actually,
And
they're
we're
looking to
moving
move
soon.
out of Xela Gardens again.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Xela Gardens, it's a little bit further out,
Mhm.
and we knew some people that moved in there, and we went to a birthday party there. It's a very, very nice condominium with lots of amenities, but it doesn't cost as much as you would expect for something like that, but because of where it's located, and you're not just, you can't just walk into town unless you really want to.
Yeah, for me, I'd have a hard time living there without a car. Now, you don't have a car, right?
Don't have one, and we're trying not to ever get one.
Okay.
Really?
And no motorcycle or no other thing, so you're using public transportation
Always.
or Ubers or whatever,
Keep you in
taxis, whatever
shape.
you find.
Yeah, I mean, really, the hardest part is like from my house to the entrance. It's some 25, 30-minute walk,
Oh,
and
wow.
it's down the
Because
mountain.
And
you-
so
Yeah.
from to your house, because everything there is uphill from the entrance,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so
I know that from being there a couple of times.
yeah, if I go to the gym, I have to do the 30-minute walk down the hill, hop on a bus to the rotunda, get a microbus to Parque Central, and then walk to my gym.
Isn't
and
there a
then-
gym in the Xela Gardens?
Not where
Of
there's
all the things they have, they don't have a gym?
there's the giant clubhouse that's about halfway
Right.
done, the third clubhouse. And it's supposed to have a huge gym, an Olympic-sized pool, but there's nobody working on it. So, yeah, but by the time I get home, it's like 3 hours later. I've walked 5 miles or somewhere around 5 miles, plus hit the gym, and been on 4 buses.
Yeah.
Wow, glad you retired.
Well, and you know, that's one of the things that we do like, the convenience of a car. As a matter of fact, I'll make a video. We have a new car coming. I'm going to make a video. It's not going to be much of a video because we did some pretty simple steps to get it, but brand new car that we're picking up hopefully maybe early next week, if not later today, if they get a call. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I've taken the buses here, the micro buses, where you have, you know, and it's nice, 2.5 Q. You're looking at under 50 cents to get on a bus and go somewhere and get out. And then every time you switch buses, you just give them another 2.5 Q. and it was like 26, it's 30 cents.
Yeah.
30 cents to jump on. And they go everywhere. Within the confines of Xela, you can get almost anywhere by microbus, they call them. They're tiny, well, they're oversized vans.
Yeah.
And usually in really rough shape.
And crowded.
And crowded. I could, the other day I had to take one to go to the store because we didn't have a car here. And I went up to the semáforo, the light by Tregales. It's a traffic light for those of you that don't speak English yet or Spanish yet. I waited, and when a bus is so full that Guatemalans don't get on it, you know it's full.
Yeah.
So I called Brian and I said, okay, I'm going to go over here to Tucunaman. I'm going to take a bus and go to Utzleo instead of Interplaza because I can't get a bus that has any room on it. And so it was just crazy, but you can go anywhere. So don't think you can't get anywhere. You have to have a car, because on the other side of that coin, driving here can be a frustration. Betty has a car. I know you drive. You've driven all over the country as well in your car. Yeah, pretty much. And, this is a small version of the city traffic anymore. And you've probably watched that grow over the years.
Oh, yeah. It was so different. It was so peaceful here.
Well, Zone 1, when we lived there, was super easy. I mean, we could almost walk everywhere. If we wanted to go to the mall, just like you said, hop on the microbus or Walmart. But yeah, Xela Gardens. We moved out there because we had two really, really old dogs that have passed away recently. And because like in Zone 1, we couldn't walk them. They couldn't get along with the street dogs.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, we're just going to go out to Xela Gardens. There's no street dogs. We can walk them around. So now instead we've got 3 puppies. We had 2 puppies and one that's a little over a year old. This little street dog that looked like a living skeleton that walked up to us. So.
Okay, I was going to ask that question because I remember seeing that you guys were adopted by a street dog, and you were trying to find somebody who could take this dog.
Yeah.
Because you're like, we already got these dogs, and because they're older, they required a lot of care. And I never really heard a resolution, but now I see you still have that dog.
Yep, I still have her. We walked around. We kept thinking, oh, we're just, we didn't know what kind of condition she was going to end up in. Whoever had her, because like if you walk along, the street dogs pretty much ignore you like you're invisible walking around town.
You hope.
This one ran right up to us, tail wagging, standing in front of us, which I thought was strange at the beginning. Then we find out she had already been fixed. So somebody had her, got her fixed, got tired of her energy, and tossed her out on the street.
Well,
a lot of the rescues, they'll take street dogs and fix them and send them back out.
Yes,
So-
I was going to comment on that too, that a rescue here, they can't necessarily hold all the dogs and they can't adopt them all out, but they will go and specifically the females, because those are a kind of a quick turnover, as opposed to a male dog getting fixed needs more care or something. So
It seems like
a female, they can take it, get it fixed, and within like 2 days, they can put it back out where it was. Now, maybe in those 2 days, that little puppy got accustomed to having
Some
2 or 3
attention.
meals a day and
Yeah.
getting a little bit of attention and whatnot. Maybe. Or I've heard the story of, people, they just let their dog.
Yeah, they're not even street dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That dog that has kind of adopted Robin, I'll say. And when we went to Chuck and Robin's last night, that dog was sitting outside the gate.
But it belongs to the guy down the street.
Yeah, way down the street. I mean, it's not like right next door, but she gave it some food a couple times, and now that dog
Thinks it belongs
knows
to
where
Robin.
she lives. So he can't go into her condo, but he'll be sitting there at the door
And he'll wait
waiting.
for it.
It's kind
Let's
kinda
go. Speaking of
heart-wrenching
condos, let's
sometimes.
go back. Okay, so
Yeah.
Scott, you had your housing. Betty lived in a number of places and now owns a house that you can do with as you please as time prevails and as things happen. She's going to be doing some changes to her house. Scott, you've lived in an apartment you didn't like, and now you're in a condo you do like. You just don't like the location. What kinds of things has Betty commented on the quality of work in some of these houses, is why prices could be altered or different? What have you noticed, having lived as a newer person here, and being in the States more recently than Betty, what have you noticed as far as the housing and the quality and your options?
Yeah, it's a huge range, from really bad to really good. The place we're in now it's a 4-bedroom, 4-bath,
Wow.
which is really silly for Lydia and I. It's Lydia and I, and now a couple of dogs. So we don't use hardly any of the rooms. But yeah, the other place, it was nice and it was fine. It was only the landlord that we had an issue with, but it was super close and super convenient to everything. So yeah, eventually we're going to move out, I think, like April 1st.
Okay.
So that's kind of our target, to find a new place. We absolutely love everything about Xela Gardens, except that it's just really inconvenient. And
that was one of the things for us, and that and everything we do and all the people that we kind of socialize with are on this side of town. And that's completely on the other side of town, and then outside of town a little bit. And so even though you can find, because the people that we knew that we went to that birthday party, their house was beautiful. It was a new build, and they were only paying like 3,500 Q a month, and it was not quite as big as this house, but it still had 3 bedrooms and was nice and new, and they were basically across the street from where the 2 pools are at the main. And so
that's about $500.
yeah, I mean, it's not much.
Yeah.
It's not much at all. And
the other thing about it is, because there's a lot of lots in there, but a lot don't have houses built on them yet. There's a lot of green space.
yeah,
So it seems more open, because we've walked around here and where you live too, very similar situation. House right next door to house to house to house to house to house, and hardly anybody has a yard, so to speak. I mean, that's not, especially here in town, that's not common for somebody to have a yard. And even if they do, I mean, we have a front yard. It is literally about 18
size of
inches
this
by
table.
36 inches.
It's maybe the size of this table.
So it's.
And we have our little green space out here by the garage, but
And it's a cultural thing too,
Yeah.
because it's the yard outside the house is not the thing. It's not exactly like the colonial setup, but they'd rather have a patio that is like kind of on the inside.
kind of like
Kind of like what you have, and some of them can actually be quite large, but the house wraps around it.
right.
And
It's having a
part
piece
that
of the
is
outside
security
inside.
too, because that way your house is on all around the edges, so people can't be climbing into your property.
Right.
well, and that's a weird thing too, or I guess it's maybe a cultural thing, but somebody told me this in Nicaragua, and maybe it applies here as well. But like sometimes you'll be walking around and like it's kind of a don't judge a book by the cover. So you're walking around and you see like a door or something, and like some places I'll go past over and over and over again, like every day. And then one day the door will be open. I'll look in and like, holy cow, it's beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And the outside is like not painted, and somebody told me that a lot of times they purposely don't like make it beautiful on the outside, just kind of not advertised, like, hey, we've got a lot.
Don't tell people what you got.
Yeah.
That's kind of the opposite of the USA, right?
Yeah.
A lot of houses there look,
Very
I mean,
flashy.
they're gorgeous inside and out, but you can definitely see when you go past a lot of houses in the USA. It's
But
like,
it
yeah,
is
that's a nice place.
here. It's like a surprise. It's like Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what's inside until you get in there.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like a beautiful restaurant, a beautiful hotel, or a beautiful house.
Yeah, and so that's a fun part of living here, is
I love
discovering those places. It's like, wait till you see this, wait till you see that, and that's kind of a fun place about living here in Guatemala. I know we're just having general conversation, but I want to make a quick note, because both Scott and Betty also have YouTube channels, and we're going to put their links to their channels in the description box. So check out their channels as well. Definitely subscribe to us if you're not already, and to Scott and Betty, and share this, enjoy it. This is just Expat Chat. This is not a detailed informational video. It's supposed to be something for you to enjoy. So we hope you're enjoying just our general conversation. We've been talking for almost 45 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time flies.
Time flies.
And comment, because that's the only way we're going to find out what people want to know.
Exactly. And, you know, it's kind of fun because we're just having this conversation and you may be watching this video thinking, what on earth are they doing?
Drinking good coffee.
We
They're
are
really
drinking
good.
really good coffee, by the way. But we just hope that if you have some questions, maybe something in this conversation has spurred you to think of a question. Or, you know, hey, Deb, why don't you make a video about this? Or go look at Scott's channel or Betty's channel and say, I'd like to hear more about that. This is kind of what we're trying to do. We're trying to lift each other up as well as provide you with information and entertainment, maybe.
Well, do we want to mention kind of the focus of these other, because Betty's channel isn't about living in Guatemala, right?
Betty's she's got her prayer channel, but her Thriving Over 60 channel is about she has Guatemalan videos, she has health videos, she has, Betty's got a hodgepodge of everything. You can find something on Betty's channel, and if you can't, you need a life.
But it's all about thriving.
It's all about, exactly.
Yeah, it's about just making this last few decades of life the very best it can be, and I'm doing it here.
Exactly. And, you know, we all are, I don't know how old you are, Scott. We're in our 60s.
62.
Oh,
Okay, so we're all the
we're
same
all
generation.
we're all in the same decade right now. So, and if you're younger than that, you can still enjoy this.
Hang on, and so just to hear, it seems to me like your channel is kind of about expat life. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, initially it was supposed to go from Mexico all the way to Argentina, but we loved it here so much that there's a lot of videos on our channel from being in Nicaragua and here as well. So just kind of what life is like and maybe doing something a little more exciting. I would have been bored to tears retiring in the US. I was used to everything. It was just like every day was another humdrum kind of day, and very different here. Most of the things we just think are wonderful. So just having a little bit of an adventure in retirement.
So, and you said you initially had this plan, but you kind of got waylaid right from the get-go. Are you still, your goal is to still eventually start traveling south and stay in some other countries, or
I don't
think
think
you're
so.
kind of...
We may do some vacations in other places, but I can't find anything I don't love here.
Shayla,
You have found home. You have found home. You have found home. Yep.
With Debbie and I were talking about this a little bit the other day, and like she said earlier, it's been really cold here for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, but it's not so cold, freezing cold. Like, we're from Michigan. I mean, when we were complaining that it's cold because it's only, 45, 50 degrees, 60 something in the daytime, back home it was 0. So
And this is Fahrenheit we're talking.
yeah, so a big difference. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm sure there's other places with this climate. I'm sure there are some places in the world, but I don't want to take the time to go try and find it. And we talked about this. Well, if something happened and we decided to move someplace else, not the USA, it would still have to be someplace Spanish speak, because I don't
want to learn
at
another
60 years old. I don't want to try and learn another language. So it's either got to speak English or Spanish, and I can muddle along with my intermediate Spanish.
And I've managed to get through, and I don't speak as much Spanish as Brian does. You probably speak more, having married to a Spanish speaker.
Well, I made a crucial mistake, because like when the girls were still home and living at home, they were always speaking Spanish to Lydia and English to me. Lydia was always speaking to me or asking me questions in Spanish. I was always answering in English, which looking back was stupid. I could have greatly improved if I would have been responding in Spanish. But so yeah, in our house it was both all the time.
Okay.
So what is it now?
A little bit more Spanish now.
Okay.
Because she is irritated when she says something that I don't understand. I'm like, well, she was in the States for decades, and her English still is not perfect. So right. I get a little slack there.
Yeah.
I can imagine that her English is kind of at the level of some of ours Spanish.
Yeah.
I get by a little better than Debbie gets by here, but I do not consider myself fluent by
But I do
and
muddle
on some
through.
conversation topics. Yes, I can just talk on and on, but there's some things I just don't have that vocabulary, so.
This is where I have an
sitting there going,
advantage of the
yeah,
doctors, because a lot of doctor terminology is all Latin-based, the terminology, no matter where you're from. And because I spent so many years in the medical field, that helps me a
You
lot.
know what's kind of funny? I remember way back when it used to be kind of I don't know, a joke or whatever, but they would just convert to Spanish an English word by putting an O or an A. Now, in the medical terminology, that really functions. A lot of medicines, it's like acetaminophen, acetaminophen. They're basically the same exact word, just an A at the end or an O.
Because it's not an English word to start with.
So.
But anyway, we're getting off track again. We're probably going to consider and continue to have just general conversation, enjoy each other's company. I'm going to post this video. I hope you enjoy parts or all of it. Actually, I hope you enjoy it all. Please comment. Let us know what you want to hear next. And look forward to more expat chat coming from life in Guatemala. Have a great day. Say goodbye.
I'm not ready to leave yet. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.